Alright, what I have here is a rubbed steak with olive oil, some lemon pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder, and that's just about it. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of olive oil to my pan here. That's nice and hot, about a tablespoon or so. As you can see, the pan is already smoking, which tells me that it's ready for me to go ahead and place my steak on there. What we're trying to do here by starting off with the stove is just trying to get a really nice sear on our steak. Once we put the steak on there, we are not going to touch it again for approximately 3 minutes. While we're waiting on that, one of the sides that we're going to be doing today is a parsnip puree, or you can also do a parsnip mash in this fashion depending on the consistency that you like. Right now in this pot I have some parsnips that are cut up just like you would do with potatoes when you're making mashed potatoes. Currently boiling until it's tender, okay? What I also have going on, my oven is now preheated to about 375. Once I've had my steak cooking for about 3 minutes on this side, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over, okay? Okay, at this point I've had my steak searing on one side for about 3 minutes. Now what I'm going to do is I will turn it over and put it in for another 3 minutes, okay? As you can see, we have a nice sear on those steaks. Okay, we've gone ahead and put our steaks to sear on each side for about 3 minutes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it from the stove and put it in the oven and let it get to the temperature and the cook that I like. I personally like a medium steak, so I'll be cooking this for about 6, no more than 8 minutes. If you like more of a rare steak, I would go for about 4 to 6 minutes, depending on the thickness of the steak that you do get. While we have that in there, I'm going to go ahead and look at my parsnips, seeing if they are tender. An easy way to check if they're tender is going to be just like you would potatoes. Go ahead and take a fork to them, and if the fork goes through them fairly easily, that is a good, nice, tenderized parsnip. Alright, so currently I have my steak sitting in the oven for a few more minutes. So while I'm waiting for that, I am going to start on my parsnip puree or parsnip mashed potato, depending on the consistency that you like. What I have as a substitute, instead of using milk, for those of you that are dairy intolerant, you can use almond milk or you can use coconut milk. And you would just throw that in there with your parsnips that we boiled earlier and got tenderized, okay? And you're just gonna process that to a consistency that you like. Some of the other items that I have here, I have some fresh parsley, I have fresh green onions, a little bit of salt and pepper, some onion powder, okay? And then I have some ghee that I'm throwing in here as well. Ghee is a nice substitute for butter if you are dairy intolerant, or if you have a paleo or primal diet, okay? So we're gonna mix that in there to give it some really nice, bold flavors. As you can see here, I have my finished parsnip mash, and I've also taken my steak out of the oven. Currently I have it just sitting for just a minute before I move it to an area such as this, where I'm going to let the meat rest. This is an important part of cooking steak. This is an important step because if you cut into the meat too early, all the juices will run out instead of letting it sit and marinate into the juices itself. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and put my steak in an area where it can rest while I now work on the Marsala sauce. Okay, So currently, the way my pan looks, if you see it right here, I have all the drippings and pieces of meat here. What we call that is the fond. The fond really helps to make a nice, flavorful sauce that really marries well with our steak. All right, now that we have the fond in there, I've added a little Marsala wine, okay? And what we're going to do is we are going to take this spatula and we're going to scrape that fond right off the pan, and so it will be, the flavor of the fond will be added to the sauce, okay? Once you get all that fond removed from the pan, you are going to let your sauce here simmer and reduce and thicken, okay? So we're going to do that now while we are allowing our steak to rest. Currently, my sauce is reducing. I'm going to go ahead and caramelize some onions and mushrooms to add on top of my steak. So all that's left is for me to go ahead and plate and serve. For joining me today, be bold and unashamed and eat brazen. If you haven't already, go ahead and like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or on Instagram. Thank you.